Hi. Welcome. Thank you. All right, so as he said, I'm Sheri Donahue, CEO of Commonwealth Sentinel. I'm an engineer. When I went to college, we didn't have anything that was known as cybersecurity, right? I mean, when I had an assignment to do on the computer, I had to sign up for a time in the computer lab at 2 in the morning. This is all has happened so fast. It's amazing to think how fast technology has changed. So, as I said, I was an engineer working for the Navy for 20 years on weapon systems and intelligence programs. And then I worked with the FBI. I ran a national program in critical infrastructure protection, and that's how I got into cybersecurity. So a year and a half ago, when we were hit by a pandemic, I decided what better time to start a company than in the middle of a pandemic, right? But honestly, it was a good time because we were transforming into going to remote work and more relying on technology. But overnight, we leapt to where we would have been in 5 years. So quickly, people are working from home. We have to set up VPNs. We have, everybody's shopping online. They're doing school online. Zoom became a part of our lexicon. And now, we had to really quickly ramp up our cybersecurity. And so it was a good time because county governments, water companies, emergency services, all the critical infrastructure, everybody needs cybersecurity. So that's how I got here. Now, some of you came in while we were finishing up the last one, and so you know that at the very end, I have a couple of questions, and I have some really good prizes to give away. So just kind of pay attention a little bit, and if you came in early, you know the answers. So I'm not going to try to scare you. I'm going to try to educate you. But we all hear those stories all the time about cyber attacks. The thing is, you can never have too much security. What you don't know can hurt you and will. And we always hear the term, it's not a matter of if, but when. And I'll add a corollary to that. It's not a matter of if but when that you're going to get attacked and when you will know you've been attacked. Because I have some interesting numbers here. 33% of local governments have no way to tell if they've been attacked. Of those that can tell, 33% say they are attacked hourly. Once an hour, somebody's trying to get into their system. I mean, they're not getting through, but they're trying to get into their system. And half of those say they're attacked daily. So think about the 33% that have no way to really know. They're not monitoring it, what's going on there. 68% of government organizations internationally were compromised by one or more cyber attacks in the last year. 68%. Now, we have the national, we have the international numbers, but what we care about is Kentucky, right? So let's talk about the public sector in Kentucky. In the last 24 months, 23 public sector organizations have been hit by a cyber attack. That's one a month. That doesn't count, all the private sector entities, all the businesses that, are hit, because they don't have the requirement to report like public sector does. So when we look at that, we think about, everybody's vulnerable. Hospitals, schools, government, banks, everybody. Because we are dependent more on cyber, on technology than we ever have been. As we're more dependent on it, that's more ways that we can be attacked. The more complicated our network, the more ways to get in. So, okay, where was I? Oh, as we get better, they get better. We get better defending, they get better attacking. And so I look at that as like an arms race, right? You keep, you get better, they get better. You get better, they get better. And I like this analogy because when we look at other countries, nation states attack us. We know that. Russia, China, Iran. North Korea has actually paid for their nuclear program completely by the money they made through cyber attacks. That's a lot of money, right? And it's scary to think that they were able to get that much money by doing that. So why is it important for county governments? You know, all that aside, all the nation states and all that, why is it important for you to really pay attention to cybersecurity? You have a lot of other things on your plate. I know that. Because you can't just close down, right? Businesses can close. I think it's 60% of all small businesses that are hit with a cyber attack go out of business within 6 months. You can't do that. You have people that rely on you. You have services that you have to provide. It is not just a quality of life issue. It can sometimes be life or death issues. And you have compliance, right? You have to report if you've been hit by a cyber attack. We have a couple of examples here that actually, we get examples all the time. Mercer County, New Jersey, not Mercer County, Kentucky. I'm not going to use any Kentucky examples. Mercer County, New Jersey, East Windsor. They had an email spoof where somebody was able to get into their system and they sent an email out to all the residents. It looked like it came from the town council, but at the same time this email is going out, the town council can't get into their system. They've been locked out. So imagine, people that depend on you, people that rely on you and trust you, they're getting an email, God knows what it says. And you can't reply. You can't go out and send an email to them saying, that's not me. Akron, Ohio, hit with a ransomware attack. It took down their 311 system in the middle of a major snowstorm. They're getting a foot of snow, and nobody can call in for help or to report anything because the cyber attack took down their 311 system. And in Butler County, Kansas, the one thing that we worry about, the cyber criminals locked down their 911 system. Again, it is life and death. So why are you at risk? The one thing that the world works on is money, right? It's all about money, money, money. Resources. There's a limited amount of money to pay for everything you have to pay for. There's so much on your plate that you have to provide to your constituents, to your citizens. And especially when things are priorities, you know, whether it's a tornado, a flood, an ice storm, a snowstorm, a pandemic, right? Those priorities, you have to respond to those. And cybersecurity tends to be one of those things that goes by the wayside because that's a prevention. That's not happening right now. It is happening right now, we just don't know it. But that's a prevention that we can worry about later. But it is much cheaper to take care of a prevention than it is to pay a ransom or to fix things later. Another reason is that the money, again, your budget is public information. They know how much to ask for. And they know if you are putting a lot of money into your IT or cyber or whatever it is to protect yourself. Also, it's easier to hit 10 government agencies and ask for $100,000 than it is to hit one hardened target, a big corporation with 200 people that take care of their cybersecurity and ask for $1 million. That's a lot of work. It's going to be a lot easier to go to agencies that don't have as much cybersecurity in place. And the one thing that I think is the worst of all, of why you are at risk. If you have a few things in place, or you have an IT department or an IT contractor, you may think that they are protecting you. You need to ask questions. Ask what they're doing. Are they looking at logs? Are they protecting the devices? Are they protecting the network? Ask questions, because you might actually have a false sense of security. And the false sense of security gets us every single time. Because, like I said earlier, you can never have too much security. So, what do we do? paint this ugly picture. So what do? We have to stop them. We have to keep them out. We have to prevent bad things from happening. But the thing is, as I said, with technology and there's so many more ways to connect, there's so many ways to get in. There's so many things that can go wrong. So they only have to be right one time. We have to be right every time. Perfect example. We have Garfield County, Utah. They were hit with a ransomware attack. The way this ransomware attack happened, a lot of people in the county were sent the same phishing email. One person clicked it. That's all it took. One person clicked a phishing email. And what happened? They were down for weeks. All their data was stolen. And when bad guys say they're giving back your data, okay, you may even have backups. You're probably not going to get them all back. And even if they do give it back, they still have a copy. They can publish that. Not only that, they know how your system is set up. So guess what? They're probably going to attack you again, unless you make some major changes. So what are some of the ways that we are attacked? Phishing. Everybody knows about phishing. And these look so real now, right? They really look like they're coming from where they say they're coming from. Vishing is voice phishing, where you get a phone call. I got a call from my water company, so I thought, a few months back, and they said, oh, your payment didn't go through. You need to pay your water bill right now. Our technicians are on the way to your house right now to turn off your water. Like, what? So I was in Frankfurt. I was at work. My house is in Louisville. I'm like, really? Okay. Well, I can go online. And, it comes out of my account automatically, but maybe something happened. I can go online and pay it, And he said, no. If you do that, it takes a few days for it to process. So give me your bank account information, and you can pay it that way. I said, I tell you what. I said, you tell me how much I paid last month. Click. He hangs up. So I call the water company. They're like, no. I said, I didn't think so. And they said, we've been getting a lot of this. And they try to let people know about it, but if maybe something happened, you changed bank accounts, or your debit card got compromised, and you had to get a new debit card, you might think, it could be, yeah, maybe that did happen. And you might pay online or over the phone and give them your bank information, and hopefully that's the only thing they take. They don't clean out your bank now, right? So these things happen. Smishing, that's phishing by text message. How many people in here have gotten a text message saying, click here for your tracking number for your FedEx package, right? Amazon, it says Amazon. It says Verizon. It says Chase Bank. Click here, your card's been used. Click here to log into your account to verify it's you. They're just trying to get your login information, right? So if you ever get something like that, call your bank or go to your bank online the way you usually go online. Don't click a link you've been given. So social engineering is a huge way of these attacks happening. Bad cyber hygiene, not changing your passwords regularly, using the same password for a lot of different accounts, putting Post-it notes up with your password. All these cyber hygiene things are ways that people can get in. Not using multi-factor authentication. Does anybody here use multi-factor authentication on a regular basis in your county? Good. Okay, we need more people. Next year I want a lot of hands go up. Do you all know if you have cyber insurance for your county? Anybody? Good. Okay. The thing about cyber insurance is only about 49% of claims are paid. The reason for that is there have been so many more claims made, it doesn't save you from attack. People think I can just get cyber insurance and I don't have to worry about it. But you have to have certain things in place. You have to have multi-factor authentication. You have to have certain cyber measures in place before they'll pay. So if you have an accident in your car and you're drunk driving, is your car insurance going to pay? So you have to do certain things yourself. All right, let's see. Improper architecture, legacy systems. If you have a system that's been there for 20 years, the company may not be continuing to provide patching for that. So, and then also too, I was talking earlier, the Johnny Cash song, One Piece at a Time. Anybody familiar with that? Where he works for a car company, and over 40 years, he's building these cars, these Cadillacs, and he says over all these years, he takes one piece at a time out in his lunchbox, right? So finally, when he starts putting it all together, it doesn't fit right. One side has 3 headlights, one side has 2, the fins, the whole thing, it's crazy how it just doesn't fit together. He thinks all these pieces are gonna fit together, but they change over time. Well, that's what happens when you have different pieces of security or different IT things that come together. Because a lot of times, maybe you had a system in place 20 years ago, and then over time, a new device comes out, we want to add that. Well, they're not fitting together quite right, like that car. And we need to make sure that there are not holes in there where somebody can get in. So bad architecture is one way. Another thing is the supply chain. If you have a vendor that's not secure. Anybody familiar with the Target attack a few years back that people's debit card information was stolen? So what happened was Target was secure, but they had an HVAC vendor that came in to do work in their store, and the HVAC vendor needed to access the internet. So they let them connect to their main internet in the store. The HVAC vendor had malware. They didn't do it on purpose, but somebody got into their system, and through them, they got into the Target system, and they stole, I forget how many it was, but a ton of debit card information and credit card information of their customers. And they lost business over that. And then there's CVEs, common vulnerabilities and exposures. So this is alerts that come out. I recommend that if you're not already a member of the multi-state ISAC, anybody familiar with multi-state ISAC? I believe it's free to join, but it's an information sharing and analysis center, and they will send you alerts, threat information, not just on computer stuff, but physical stuff, physical threats, or it's a sharing information amongst state and local government organizations. It's a great thing to have to get information. The thing about these threats that come out, you may not be doing anything wrong, but a vulnerability comes out when it's discovered. You have a Microsoft product and it works great. And then all of a sudden somebody discovers there's a way to get into it. As soon as that's discovered, they create a patch for it. And they send out this CVE, this alert. And you need to patch it right away. Or you need to get your IT people to patch it right away. Because as soon as bad guys know about it, they're going to use it to exploit you. The other thing about that, you may be doing patching, but be sure to ask questions of your IT people, because that's only half the solution. They need to make sure that nobody else has gotten into the system before you patched it. So that goes to scanning. We need to scan the system to make sure that we have nobody bad in there doing bad things. And we need to continually do that, because you can't just take a snapshot in time. It can't be a photograph, it has to be a video. We need to make sure that there's not anybody getting in later. Okay, you might have been safe last week, but tomorrow somebody might get in. You need that continual monitoring. You also need to secure your devices. If we secure all the devices, the workstations, the laptops, the ThinkPads, the cameras, the servers, the routers, all of these things, then if, say, somebody does get in or somebody does click on a phishing link, we can isolate, quarantine that device, and roll back to a point in time before that phishing link was clicked. What that does is it protects all your data because it's not spreading throughout the whole network. Protect your network itself. All these computers generate logs, so we can see everything that's going on. If you have an IT person, ask them, are they reviewing these logs and how often? Because we can use artificial intelligence to look at them, and it's called threat hunting. It's looking for anomalous behavior, things that aren't quite right. Did you log in at midnight last night from Russia? That probably wasn't you. And we connect to a secure operations center, 24/7 analyst. So they can take all these logs. They can, the AI brings it down to like this many things that we need to look at, and then the analyst can look at it and say, okay, all these are fine except these two. Let's go back and check with the client to make sure that that wasn't an anomaly. We also have security awareness training. Your people are very important. These phishing links that come in, we do phishing simulations, and I know a lot of companies do this. The state does phishing simulations. So what happens, you can determine the frequency. So let's say that you're sending once a month, you're sending a test. It's an email that looks like a real email, but it's a test to get somebody to click on a link, and they click on it and it comes up and says, oh, this was a test, you failed, you shouldn't have clicked on this. Or maybe they report it and they say, they call the IT, your cybersecurity team, and say, hey, I got this email, I think it's a phishing email. They pass. So what happens is, they're always going to be expecting that there's going to be a test coming, there's going to be a link, there's going to be an email that's a phishing. So if they're always trying to be careful not to do that, they're also going to be careful not to click on the real phishing attack. Security training is so very important. Policies, have policies in place to make sure you're changing your password, or physical security, you're locking your doors, several things like that. Incident response, have an incident response plan, so if something does happen, you know what you're going to do. You know who you're going to call. You're going to know, what systems do we shut down. You know what to do, because you don't want to be figuring it out when it happens. And practice that. Practice your plan. The other thing is, we hear a lot about ransomware. And ransomware is a very scary thing. And it's one of those things that we see on headlines all the time, right? Somebody was hit with ransomware, they had to pay, $1 million, and, then they had to pay money to get it fixed and cleaned up and buy all new computers, all this, that, and the other. And then you have the loss of business. Ransomware is a bad thing, but it's a lot of work, right? The bad guys have to do a lot in order to implement a ransomware attack. So what's happened is, it is a lot of work, it is high risk, and the law enforcement, they're learning how to trace and freeze cryptocurrency payments. That's one thing that made ransomware so profitable. They were able to use Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, for payment, and it couldn't be tracked. Law enforcement's figuring out how to do that. So as they're figuring out how to do that, these cyber criminals are like, I don't know, And even if they don't figure it out, cryptocurrency, the value of cryptocurrency, it's all over the place. It's up, down, it's everywhere. So cyber criminals are starting to do something else more often now, business email compromise, BEC. And what this is when somebody is able to send an email that looks like it comes from maybe a vendor you use all the time. You've been using this vendor for 5 years, and you just pay them every month online. Well, you get an email that looks like it's from the vendor, and it says, hey Sue, we just switched banks, so start sending our payment to this bank now. Here's the routing number, here's the account number. Okay, you start sending it there. It's not going to your vendor, right? Think how easy that was to do. Happens a lot. And as a matter of fact, there is more money generated from business email compromise than from ransomware. But why don't we hear about it? It's embarrassing. Do you want it known that you fell for a trick, right? And a lot of times it can be recovered, but not always. So that's something that we're seeing a lot more of, is ransomware, or business email compromise. And I have a couple of examples that I like to share because it really kind of brings it home. The Chicago Department of Aviation, Cook County, Illinois, they were asked by a vendor to send $1 million to a new bank account. They send it, and then right after they send it, they're like, was that right? They figure out it was a scam. Lucky for them, the bank that it went to, they freeze that phony account. So the people that set it up couldn't access that money because the bank froze it. They're like, there's something wrong here. Thank goodness for the bank. They saved them. So, that is one thing that we can look at is how people are able to evaluate something that seems not right. Or you might get an email that looks like it's from, say, the county judge sends it to the treasurer and says, we need to, we don't want to lose this contract, send, so much money to this account, and I'm getting ready to get on a plane, or I'm going into a meeting, so I can't be reached. Just go ahead and do it. I need it done within the hour. This happens. And so you might think, okay, well, I don't want to get in trouble. I know it's urgent. I know we've been trying to close this deal. I know we don't want to lose this contract. So you send it. These things happen all the time. So let me give you some of these business email compromise examples, because this is one that really bothers me. Rock Island County, Illinois, the county auditor authorized a payment of $100,000 to a vendor they used all the time. As a result, now they lost this money, but what they said, the quote is, as a result, we have reviewed our internal control procedures. Shouldn't you have done that before? Then Harrisburg, North Carolina. This is the worst one. Hit with a cyber attack. And the county attorney says, well, now the town council approved funds to restore our system and to help fortify against future attacks. Oh, okay. That's good. Protect against future attacks. Wouldn't it have been better to have prevented it in the first place, right? So cybersecurity, it is not a destination. It is a journey. When you're scanning, you need to continually scan. You need to continually go back and look and make sure that you don't have new vulnerabilities. Or if you implement a new technology, is it integrating with what you have well and not causing something else to break?